I'm going to talk about is 8 tips on entrepreneurship. And I'm going to talk about basically 2 times 4 tips. 4 tips on entrepreneurship that I learned from starting my first business a couple of years ago, and 4 tips that I learned after that along the way from people inside Mindvalley, people I hang out with, and one of my biggest mentors, Seth Godin. This is a living legend on entrepreneurship and business, and the things that I'm going to talk about are based on my own experience as an entrepreneur and the teachings that I learned or the insights that I gained from him, because he shaped the way I think about business. So this was the logo of the company that I first started, first business back home in the Netherlands, 4.5 years ago, and very little people know this about me, except for the people in the Netherlands, because I don't talk about it that often, because it wasn't that impressive at all, actually. However, it was a business, it was profitable, and there were some learnings. There were actually 4 learnings. I was doing an internship at the biggest online research company in the Netherlands, and apparently I was doing a really good job, and this company decided to offer me to spin off one of their products that I was mostly working on as one of my own. And at the time, I was already kind of brainstorming with a close friend of mine about making some money on the side. While we were studying, they were just starting to teach online marketing at my university during this was my 3rd year at university. And the product that I was working with, and they offered to me to spin off as one of my own products, to start my own business with them as silent partners, was basically a package that we sold to startups, like beginning entrepreneurs, with a website, with online research, and with a corporate design. And we were learning online marketing, and we were dealing with all these entrepreneurs. And these are not the kind of entrepreneurs that you would think of right now that start tech companies or start huge companies like Facebook. These entrepreneurs were really big or really small entrepreneurs. They were specialists. We were dealing with strawberry tailors, for example, with people that run art expositions, people that were really, really good at what they were doing, but they were clueless about how to market themselves online. So my friend and I, we decided, okay, let's do this. So we went to the Chamber of Commerce, we gave them some money, and then we walked out and we were having this paper in our hands that all of a sudden said, okay, right now you have a business, you are an entrepreneur or a freelancer or whatever you want to call it. And there we were. And along this journey that lasted for about 1.5 years before I came to Mindvalley, there was 4 things that I learned. So the first thing is, you need to start. It's really that simple. And I'll elaborate a little bit more on these things as we go. Second thing is, you need to know what to do. Third thing is, you need to be able to actually do it. And the last thing is, when shit hits the fan, when things get tough, you need to be passionate enough about what you're doing to take a hit for it. And these things sound really, really simple, but it's often the simplicity in things that makes things really difficult. So the first thing is you got to start somewhere. And I'm going to throw this cliche at you that you've probably heard 1,000 times before, which is, there is no right moment. And you hear this all the time because there really isn't. You cannot wait until you have all your ducks in a row, because they're never going to be. And being an entrepreneur is really different from becoming a surgeon or a pilot, for example. Because as a surgeon or a pilot, you spend 10, 15, X amount of years studying to get all your ducks in a row, and then all of a sudden, 15 years later, you have this duck and you get to do something with it. And the reason this is the case is because if you decide to be a surgeon, you can't just start playing around making mistakes as you go. With an entrepreneur, it's completely different. Everybody in this room, like you've probably heard throughout the last presentations as well, can be an entrepreneur tomorrow. Or not tomorrow because it's Saturday, but Monday, for example. Because what being an entrepreneur is all about is failing. And the only consequence of failing, as opposed to being a surgeon or a pilot, is that if you fail and get up, you're a better person. The second thing is, not the second thing, to add on to that, to start somewhere, I have a quote from Eric Ries that I really, really love. And Eric Ries is the founder of the Lean Startup movement. And he says, think big, start small, and scale fast. You need to have a vision of where you want to go. You need to have some idea of what the hell you're trying to do, basically. Then you can start small because you can start with your best guess. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be just a random idea that is not perfect yet, but you can start tomorrow if you want to. And then once you have your proof of concept, you need to scale like there's no tomorrow. The second thing is you need to know what to do. And I like this picture because it applies on what we were doing basically. We were standing there, we had this paper in our hands that said that we were an entrepreneur. But we had no idea what we were doing. We just spotted a gap in the market. We were working with these entrepreneurs that didn't know how to do online marketing. We had this product and we were online marketing. So we thought 1 and 1 is 2, let's do something, let's fill this gap with the knowledge that we have. So we were standing there with this paper in our hands, okay, now we are entrepreneurs. And the only thing that we knew for sure, or actually 2 things, is that we knew more about online marketing than these entrepreneurs did, or 90% of them at least, because they were really good at, for example, growing strawberries. And I tasted these babies, they were really, really good, because we visited them. But they didn't know how to market themselves. And the second thing was, what we knew we needed to do is, if you want to make money, you need to get clients. So that's what we did. And what we did is we downloaded a registry from the Chamber of Commerce that contained all the phone numbers of all the entrepreneurs that started over the past year in the Netherlands, in our region, and after school, after internship, we started calling them. And we started pitching who we were and what we did, and we revised our pitch. And Joukje, my girlfriend over there, she'll remember because she helped us actually pitching and revising our pitch and trying to sell our product. And really only what we knew was that we had this product, and what they taught us in university was not entrepreneurship. They taught us SEO, and that's how we got excited about online marketing. And what happened is that we started pitching about SEO, but these people had no idea what we were talking about. What the hell is SEO? What are you trying to do? And what we quickly found, luckily we were clever enough to find out, is that usually startups don't start with SEO because they need results fast, so they start with something else, like AdWords. So we had to revise our pitch. So what we did was we called them and we started asking them, what is it that you need? And they said, for example, AdWords, or they said, for example, we need a marketing plan. So we told them, what a coincidence. This is exactly what we do. So we know what to do. We needed to get clients. First step, check. Next one. You need to be able to actually do it. So as I mentioned, we were selling stuff we had no idea what to do. I had never touched an AdWords account before. And we weren't running massive AdWords accounts or whatever. It was just like a couple of $100 a month. But we needed to be able to deliver what we promised. We needed to be able to do what we promised them to do. So what we did basically was find a solution for that. And we thought, well, if these clients are paying us money to do their AdWords, why don't we use a small amount of that money to buy a book about AdWords? We read the book, implement the content, they're happy, we're happy. So this is what we did basically. And after a couple of months, we had a profitable business going on. It took like 4 or 5 months. It was small, but we were making money, and it was relatively easy as well. Third thing is, or the last thing actually, fourth thing, is that you need to be passionate enough to take a hit. Usually, the hard part of becoming an entrepreneur is not finding the right path, because we all know deep inside what it is that we want to do. The hard part is to actually doing the scary thing to stick to the path. And that's why not everybody becomes an entrepreneur. It's because it is frightening, because you have to go out there and say, hey, this is me, this is what I created, and you're going to get shut down. That's going to happen. That's what happened with us. We started pitching, and people weren't seeing the value. So when people don't see the value, you don't just give up. You actually remake your product. You adjust and you pivot until you have something that people will actually like. And this was the problem for us, or at least for me initially, because then I found Mindvalley. And then I was like, let's just go to Mindvalley. This was what I was motivated to do more. This was my priority. So I forfeited my business, went to Mindvalley to learn more about what I was already learning about. So there were 4 things that I basically learned. And these are really simple things, but these are things that you have to think about. You have to start. And for all the people that just raised their hand when Edmund was talking about who wants to become an entrepreneur, most of you already have an idea. Most of you already know what you want to do. So why don't you go and register on Monday with this idea and take the first step? It's not that difficult. We had no idea what we were doing. We did it as well. Second thing is you need to know what to do. Once you have that paper that says that you're doing a business, you need to know you need to do something. So you need to take that actual second step in order to get clients or make money or whatever it is that you're doing. Third thing is you need to be able to do it. And you don't need to know or don't need to be able to do it in the previous step because you can learn along the way. You can fail. We had clients that were scolding us because they didn't like what we did for them. But what are you going to do? Refund and move on. And the last thing is you need to be passionate enough. So this is what I ended up in Mindvalley, basically. Then there is another 4 things that I learned basically along the way after my internship from working with the smartest people here in Mindvalley, basically the smartest people in the world, really smart entrepreneurs, people like Eugene, people that were standing up on stage, people like Ajit standing in back, Ezekiel, Yongho, all these people, Amir. And I want to share these 4 things with you as well. And before you start kind of booing me off stage, there are a million things to do as an entrepreneur. And probably everybody knows this. But for me, if you need to prioritize things, this is what it boils down to. First of all, you need to create value. Secondly, you need to create a monopoly. Thirdly, you need to create marketing. And fourth, you need to create processes. So let me elaborate a little bit more on this. We founded Incitement, and us being Incitement, we founded this initially because we wanted people to take action on their ideas, basically. So as I go along, we're going to do a couple of exercises as well. I'm going to make you stand up a couple of times, sit down a couple of times, do some stuff, and if you would like to collaborate, I'd be very happy if you want to do that. Creating value. So starting up a business is about one thing only. It's about creating value. This value has to be the solution to a problem that people are having, because otherwise they're not going to buy it. If you don't create value, you might sell some stuff, but people are not going to be satisfied, so you're never going to have a stable customer base. It's never going to happen if you're not creating value. What you got to remember is that people are giving you money, basically, because they think what you're selling is worth more than it costs. And if you remember that, you have an obligation to actually sell them your stuff because they're the ones that are benefiting, because they're the ones that think that it's worth it. And if they're not benefiting, if they're not seeing the value, then you need to make something better. It's that simple. You need to pivot. So with Incitement, how we try to create value, and this is something that Ziki and I love to do, basically, is 3 things. We try to make it as fun as possible. We try to make people grow, and we try to make people grow other people, and we try to contribute. And this is what Incitement is all about. This is how it initially started, because I came to Malaysia 2 years ago, and Zikri had been traveling around the world, living everywhere, came back to Malaysia, and we basically agreed on one thing. There are so many smart people here, but they're not doing anything. So what the hell is going on? So we wanted to give these people a voice, and this is how Incitement was born. This is how we try to create value through Incitement. This is why 50% or 60% of the people that are here are coming back every time and time again. I keep seeing the same faces, because this is the value that we try to create. So I want you to do a quick exercise, and it's basically the same exercise Zikri did. So you stole my exercise. So I want you to stand up first, step 1. And then partner up with 1, 2, 3 people. Doesn't really matter, as long as it's not the same people you just partnered up with. That's a different twist. And because we believe, wait. Don't start yet. Because we believe at Incitement that we all have great ideas. Yeah, just join somebody or find somebody. You can introduce yourself. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, right? Yeah? So we all have great ideas, so brainstorm one idea that you think can potentially change the world. And stick with that idea, because we're going to use it for the next exercise. Everybody heard that? brainstorm on an idea that either one of you has that you agree on that can potentially change the world or create massive amounts of value. Okay, so I want to quickly hear two of those ideas. And you have the mic. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
All right. Basically, it's a voice.
Okay, quiet, please. 30 seconds.
Okay, it's a voice control algorithm where people who are disabled, who are sitting in their beds, they cannot move, they can just talk. They can control any device just by voice.
That's
so
awesome.
they can change television programs, they can call by phone, they can call nurse if they're in hospital or a dormitory or something like that. They can turn on and off the lights, air conditioning, close or open the doors. Everything that is with electricity can be controlled by voice. That's all.
That'd be amazing. That'd be very helpful.
That exists.
Okay, one more. Who wants to share? Quickly. Anybody? Theron.
All right.
30 seconds.
It doesn't matter how, it matters what. The revolutionary transportation method, I believe, would be human individual flight. So I don't know if it's a jetpack, I don't know if it's like a hover thing on your back, but if I can fly from point A to point B rather than taking the train or stuck in traffic for 3 hours, revolutionize the world.
Amazing. I would buy that shit. Definitely. Okay, so let's move on to number 2, creating monopoly. Every successful business has a monopoly. If you look at Apple, if you look at Coca-Cola, if you look at 37 Signals, Apple has a monopoly on design. Nobody can match that. Coca-Cola has this secret recipe that nobody can steal, nobody can get, so nobody can produce Coke. 37 Signals is killing Microsoft when it comes to project management. They all have something that nobody else can do as good as they can do it, basically. One of my favorite companies is Pixar, especially when it comes to creating monopolies. Because Pixar doesn't create movies. Pixar creates stories. And if they would have to sacrifice between the design or the graphics of the movie or the story, they would throw out the design right out the window because the story is what matters. And I think this is very impressive because they really believe in something. And it's probably not a coincidence that the Pixar is also was led by former Steve Jobs. And he understood this very well. They have this one thing, this one quality that nobody else can do as good as they can. And this is something that they will never ever budge on. So the storyline, the red thread, the details that make it more engaging, the characteristics of the personas, their personality traits, everything, the way they move their faces, if it's not perfect, it's not going to be released. And that's for 2 reasons. Reason 1, once they release it, they can't redo it. It's very simple. If you have other products, like internet marketing products, for example, you can optimize and tweak along as you go. You can actually release a minimum viable product and then get user feedback and whatever, and then optimize it and make it better. With a movie, you have to be proud of it when you launch it because there is no second chance. The second thing is, why they do this, because they know very, very well that they need this monopoly. They need to have this one competitive advantage, as opposed to Disney, DreamWorks, all these other companies that produce animation movies. They need to be better at something. So this is what they try to be better at. So a quick exercise. You can all stand up again, but be quiet this time. I said I was going to make you stand up. Really quick exercise. Once you have that idea of yours that can potentially change the world, what if 10 other people will be doing that as well? What is the one thing that you would be doing better than anybody else that nobody could match? So I want to hear 2 other people really quickly, 15 seconds. What is that one thing that defines you, that you are so passionate about that nobody else can do it better than you can? Nobody else can do this better than you can. One then, only one.
As an individual, Daniel, or as a company? What was
It doesn't matter.
As an individual, for me?
For the idea that you just brainstormed.
Okay. So for me, the word is conceptualization.
Conceptualization. Okay, very good. Cool. One more. No? Okay, then we'll move on. Theron again?
Okay, I can say something. What can I do better than the rest? I think as a one man, I can create a lot of different content for internet easily because I have a lot of design background besides online marketing background, so I can do a lot like as a one man thing.
Awesome.
So I don't need to really hire anybody else.
Awesome.
So that cuts my costs.
Awesome. Okay, so now we have an idea that could potentially change the world, and we have something that can make it different from if anybody else would be doing it. And the third thing is you need to create marketing. And everything is marketing. An entrepreneur is by definition a marketer, because an entrepreneur is somebody that creates or builds something and brings it to market. So in the definition of the word entrepreneur, you're a marketer, basically. And you need to start your marketing before you start even thinking about creating a product, because when you start your market research before you have a solution to a problem you don't even know exists yet, you will find out if you're creating value for that problem, yes or no. So marketing, in my opinion, is nothing else but creating a story around the value that you have created and making sure that that story is conveyed in a way so that it resonates with a group of people. If it resonates with a group of people, you can draw these people in so that they're willing to give you money. It's that simple. So how do you create this story? And how do you draw these people in? And how do you know you're telling it to the right group? So the most important thing is to know what is going on in these people's minds. What are the stories that they're telling themselves? This is what Seth Godin is talking about all the time. What are the stories people are telling themselves? I have two examples about this. One is if the iPhone 5 would launch, or of the iPhone 5S, whatever. There's a group of people that will line up the evening when the store closes, camp their tent in front of the store so that they can get the new iPhone just on the day that it launches. And why do these people do this? Because it makes them happy. Then there's another group of people that will wait for 4 or 5 weeks. And then only they'll buy the new iPhone. Why do these people do this? Because then they think they're smarter. Then they think they're making a wiser choice. Then there's a group of people that will only buy your product 6, 7 months, maybe a year later. Why? Because it makes them smarter than everybody else. Because it gives them the feeling, because they tell themselves the story, if I wait, then I'll probably make a well-considered, wise choice. A friend of mine, example 2, is building a meditation product. Now, raise your hand if you know what meditation is. That little people? Keep your hand up if you know what meditation is. You know what meditation is, Amir. Raise your damn hand. Now, lower your hand if you haven't done meditation once in your life before. Keep your hand up, guys. Come on. Come on. A little bit of interaction. If you have done, keep your hand up if you've done meditation at least once before. Otherwise, lower your hand. Keep your hand up if you are a person that would call himself somebody that meditates frequently. A lot of hands going down. Now, keep your hand up if you'd be willing to pay $100 to $150 for a meditation product. So there's one hand that is up. And whether meditation is for better or for worse is not the discussion. We can talk about that later. That doesn't matter. I think it's awesome meditating, and I think everybody should be doing it. But the interesting thing is that in this group of people, there is a lot of people that tell themselves a story that meditation is not for them, that it's a little bit out of their comfort zone, they will probably never try it. But there's also people that will be willing to spend money on buying a meditation product, and they're telling themselves that meditation is the one and only way to relieve stress and revitalize yourself, and that it's good for your inner peace, etc., etc. And these stories are worldviews of people. This is what they're telling themselves. And they're not right. They're also not wrong. They're just true for everybody. And if you craft your story about your product, you have an idea, you have a monopoly. Now you need to know how to craft your story to people that resonate with your story so that you can draw them in. And you need to keep in mind, what are they telling themselves? So, the last exercise. Stand up but keep quiet. Last exercise. Now that you have your idea and you have your monopoly, pitch your idea and your monopoly in a way that would resonate to the person standing in front of you in 1 minute. Okay, is there anybody that is brave enough to actually do this pitch in front of, what, somewhat 100 people? Fair enough, it's not, but you might as well start somewhere, right? Right there, awesome. Woo! Give this man an applause. "30 seconds.
Okay, the product's called Job Fellows. It's an app. It goes to your LinkedIn profile, reads all your skills, then it reads all your friends' skills. Then you can search for, okay, I need a graphical designer. Do I have anyone in my network or my friend's network? You can then say, okay, can you make my logo for 100 ringgits? Sure. Ask your friends, is he any good? Yeah. You transfer the money to us. We make sure that the money gets paid once the product's delivered, but we also make sure that the guy who makes the product can be paid because we have it. And that's basically the basic idea.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so last thing. We're not going to do an exercise for this, but the last thing is creating processes. And I think an entrepreneur's biggest mistake that they can make is to not hire people that are better than themselves. Because as soon as your business starts taking off, you need to start delegating work to people that can do the job that you were doing better than you, more efficient than you, and more effective than you, so that you can move on to do bigger and better things and work on breaking the system. So one of my examples, again, is the man that created Starbucks, Howard Schultz. And if you haven't read his book, Forward, it's very inspirational. It's a very cool book. What he did when he noticed after opening up 4 or 5 stores was that he couldn't manage these stores by himself anymore because it wouldn't allow him to scale. So what he did is he put a process in place where he hired people that were better at store management than he was so that he could focus on scaling the business. And what he did there has nothing to do with the core business of Starbucks, which is making really good coffee. It has something to do with correctly interpreting your job as an entrepreneur, which is creating systems that allow you to scale. So how I like to look at things is the DAD principle. And somebody, when I was in the United States, told me about this. And it's a very good principle to look through, basically, with anything you do, whether it's in your daily job or whether it's in your business or whatever. First thing is, you need to delegate stuff. So with every activity that you have, you try to delegate it to somebody else. If you can't delegate it to somebody else, you automate it. So you create a mechanism, you put a mechanism in place, you develop a certain technology that allows you to set it up once so that you never ever have to do it again, so that you can move on. And if you can't delegate it, you can't automate it, that means that it requires time. Time is not scalable because we only have 24 hours a day. That means you detonate it, you kill it, because it doesn't allow you to scale. How else are you going to grow your business? So, 4 things to summarize. You need to create value. You need to, your value, the value that you create needs to be the solution to a problem that people have. The second thing is you need to create a monopoly. You need to be better at this one thing than anybody else, that nobody can match you. You need to create marketing because you need to be able to convey the story about that value that you have over there so that you will draw people in and that people will give you your money and buy your stuff. And lastly, you need to create processes because you need to be able to move on, because you need to be able to focus on bigger things. So in conclusion, what I would like to leave you with is a question. What are you trying to achieve as an entrepreneur? Are you trying to make a decent living doing something that you love? Or are you trying to change something that is bigger than yourself? And in this particular scenario, there is no right or wrong answer, but it's just really, really important to figure it out before you start something. Because if things get hard, you're always going to come back to the same question, which is, why the hell am I doing this? And it's always going to turn back to this. So the only thing that matters is, what kind of dent are you trying to leave in the universe? What is it that makes you happy, and what is it that you're willing to devote your life to and pursue? Thank you.